long story short, I came back to the States and tried to create a course called Cross-Cultural Video Production, which I did create. It was a long story that could take the next 10 minutes to explain the problems of trying to set such a course up. But I managed to get a small grant, which allowed me to fund the Belarusian university, because they had no cameras, and at that point you needed an editing workstation to edit video. Now you can edit it on your iPhone. But at that time it was very difficult, and we set up this course. And the basic model was thus, and again, won't give you the whole syllabus, that would take hours. The main center of it was student-generated content. So the students were formed into small teams, typically 2 and 2 students on each side. They chose a theme or were given a theme. Then a student on one side, or student team, would make the first video in the sequence. They were different lengths. I did this course for about 9 years, and we played with the format and structure a lot. But typically this video is supposed to be 3 to 4 minutes. The idea was then they would send this video to their partner abroad, who would have 2 weeks to reflect on what they got, shoot and edit the next scene of the video, which they would post, and then the first group would have 2 weeks to reflect, produce the next scene of the video, post it, and then it would go back again. So there'd be 4 scenes long, creating a video about 15 minutes long when done. It was a bafflingly difficult process for the students, very exciting, but I would say 2/3 of the time, what their partner made confounded their expectations. And in some cases caused them actually to be quite angry. Because when you invest time into making something, you say, oh, this is such a great first scene. I kind of know what's going to be next. I hope. And then you get back something that's completely different. And you're like, oh my God, what did they do to my movie? And so the students actually had to navigate that interpersonally and in terms of production. And at the same time, we were reading a number of texts. It wasn't only the production. So there was some contextualization about cultural anthropology and some other things I was drawing on to put this into a place. So what I'm going to do right now, we're not going to get too much beyond this. I'm going to show you the first 2 videos of a video exchange that was done the last time I ever taught this course, which was 3 years ago. So the first video we're going to see is done by American student, a young woman. The theme is imagination. Then we'll see the second video that was done in Belarus. And we probably won't get much beyond that for my presentation, because I think I've taken more time than I was supposed to already. So let me just see if this is, yeah, okay. So this is the video from New York. was really wondering what the Belarusian student would ever do with that. But as I'm about to launch it, just one point to make, which is that language is an issue in all these projects. This student chose to not use language. It's one of the advantages of working in media. It's not to say that's the right way to go, but it's one of the approaches one might take. So here's what came back from Minsk, and imagine how surprised, let's say, this first student was to get this.
Вот вы меня спрашиваете, говорите, что изменился этот мир. Но я считаю, что этот мир совершенно не изменился. Изменились люди. А мир, он таким же, как был, так и остался. Никакой в этом трагедии нету. Какая в этом трагедия? Для мыслящего человека вообще, я вам скажу, ничего не произошло. Вот. Для пустых людей, ну, для художников, для людей творческих натур, для которых цвет имеет первостепенное значение, конечно, произошло.
Известно, что все люди говорили, что это произошло с утра, когда они проснулись. Некоторые думали, что, может быть, они просто плохо провели прошлый вечер. Но я даже не знаю. Я не знаю, что это такое. Нам не сказали.
Мир и до сих пор цветной. Просто люди не могут видеть цвет.
Возможно, вот мы как-нибудь с нами такое произошло, и, возможно, мы вообще ничего не видим, мы не пользуемся зрением, мы ориентируемся другими органами чувств. Может, так и случилось, просто у нас у всех разом лопнули глаза.
Я думаю, что просто закончились эффекты. Там всякие лица, краска. Я думаю, что просто устал конвейер, и все, перестали выпускать такие баночки, такие. И алоукол не стало, и не стало акварели. Ну все. Ну чем малевать? Черно-белое.
Я привык к этому. В сознательном возрасте, мои его считают где-то уже более сознательные, 12-16 лет, у меня не было цвета. Возможно, даже меня это не устраивает.
В целом, я считаю, что для будущего, для совершенного человека цвет не имеет совершенно никакого значения, потому что будущий совершенный человек, он углублен в глубокие вопросы, которые волнуют, которые имеют значение для всего человечества.
Мне кажется, что черно-белый мир гораздо красивее, чем цветной. Это как черно-белое кино. Что бы ты ни снял, будет красиво. Кино было убито двумя вещами. Сначала оно было убито звуком, потом оно было убито цветным изображением. Сейчас, мне кажется, мир пришел к гораздо большей гармонии. Именно потому, что в нем исчезли цвета. Теперь можно наслаждаться.
Не верьте всему тому, что говорят про нас СМИ. Мы не сектанты и не террористы. Мы цветные воины. Люди, которые научились управлять своим воображением и теперь борются с этим черно-белым миром. С помощью искусства и силы воображения мы способны изменять этот мир. 15 лет назад люди утратили способность видеть цвет. Но эта проблема только в нашей голове. Мир остался такой же цветной. И если вдруг вы увидите вот этот знак, цветные войны, если вы захотите.
Yeah, kind of mind-boggling, that one. I mean, yeah, my students at Purchase were like, oh my God. And also it was a big question of, what was being discussed, how much this was a symbolic discourse on politics, and how much it was something else. In general, I'd say the students in Belarus are much more at ease, talking, writing, acting out things that are symbolic and metaphorical, And my American students, these are gross generalizations, are much more in your face. This is me, this is what I feel, look at it. Whereas the Belarusian students, everything has like 2 or 3 levels of meaning, and that's a really different way of looking at the world. You can look at it historically, of course. We don't have time to really do an analysis. But I just wanted to give you, and this went on for 2 more. So imagine what the American student tried to come up with to answer that. It's quite interesting problem. I'm going to show you one other issue, then I'm going to leave this. This is a title from one of the American videos. This was a day in the life video exchange. That's the theme they chose. And the students in Lithuania made a very boring day in the life video. A guy gets up, brushes his teeth, goes to school, falls asleep in class, blah, blah, blah. Nothing wonderful about their day. Samantha, the student who did this, she ended up doing it solo, made an also sort of boring day in the life video, a little artier in the way it was shot, but also there was nothing in it, not one shot, that said, my life is great. She decided to title it this and sent it. And the way we ran the class was the students had to send the videos before we viewed them in the face-to-face classroom. The reason was, I said from the beginning, no censorship, but you're going to get what you sent back to you. So if you make a mistake and you send something offensive, confusing, difficult, well, you'll get something back in response. It's your problem. You're trying to create an effective communication. So she sent this video. We came to class. We screened this video. And I just said to the class, do you see any issues with Samantha's video? And everybody looked at it. They said, I don't know, the sound wasn't great, or the this or the that. And I actually had to finally say, what about her title? And actually one student finally said, do you think they might take it seriously? And this is this problem of humor and irony across cultures. My class is basically kind of art students, and for them, irony is you can't do anything better than be ironic, right? If you can do that and even fool some of the people about what's serious and what's not, you are the coolest. And so they just assumed when the students saw the video that followed this title, they'd realize it was a joke. But I said, well, let's see what happens. And the model we had set up was the students had 48 hours to write their reflection back before they started working on the response. 48 hours passed, there was no reflection. 72 hours passed, there was no reflection. I contacted my partner in Minsk, and this is key to these courses. You have to have partnerships. They have to be important connections. They can't just be some person. It has to be somebody who cares about the course and is working with you to develop it. And I said, Alla, what's going on? And she said, you won't believe this, but these students just walked out of my office. They're dropping the course. They're so upset about the video they got. They think that damn Americans think they're so much better than them, and they really don't know what to do about it. And I said, look, can you keep them aboard? Let's actually have this become a topic for the course. Irony and position. And so what happened was the next week or 2 of the course, although some of the work continued in the background, we sort of threw out the syllabus and sort of said, okay, what happened here? Let's talk about it. Let's have this become the content of the course, because clearly it was really upsetting to a group of students. And it ended up being probably the most productive thing that happened in that semester, despite that moment. And it was saved a little bit because I had a partner there. If this was a broadcast course, that would have just been the end. Those students would have left. Nobody would have even known. So when you're doing these courses, these things can happen. I just wanted to make that point. It's not always a smooth ride, and the further you go out in terms of getting student input, the more risk, I guess I would say, that this kind of thing will happen. But I think it's really where you gain the most from these courses. I'm going to try to wrap up. I'm just going to hit 2 last points. This is a map, as you can see, of New York State. SUNY is 64 campuses. It's a giant system. It's a maze. And this, I'll just let this loop a couple times. What we've done is created an internal network. And I'm throwing this out because to some degree following this conference, I hope you folks will stay in touch. And maybe there's a way you can also stay in touch with us. But at any rate, the idea has been to build a network. And as you see from the lines, the hope was not to have a hub and spokes where every line goes back to the Coyle Center, but to have the campuses working with each other. because once SUNY Ulster starts developing, which is a community college, starts developing things that work there, it's very important that other SUNY schools, such as Corning, which is another community college, that they share how they're managing this. And at SUNY, this is not usual. Each campus does their own thing, and that's the way it goes. There isn't a lot of inter-campus sharing. So the idea here, and this graphic in a kind of crude way tries to represent it, is to show that engagement. Secondly, what we have is an opt-in relationship. So even though there are 64 SUNY campuses, presently I think 21 of them are working with us. The other 42 or whatever are not. And it's not because we've rejected them or they've rejected us. We demand for them to work with us now. We will not allow a faculty member to work with us by themselves. This is a shift in the last year or two. We used to be completely there. A faculty member calls me up and says, I want to do this course, can you help me? My answer would be yes. Now my answer is, sorry, get your dean or provost to call me up. I want support on your campus, because if you try to do it yourself, you'll maybe do a great job, but at the end of a semester, you'll say, what next? And you'll go then to your dean, and your dean will probably say, why didn't you talk to me before? What is this you're doing? So I've been sort of really shifting radically and trying to bring the administrative piece in from the get-go. This is not always the best strategy, I should say. But it's the direction that I've been moving with the COIL Center, because I think it's very, very important to have this be a kind of campus initiative and not just be an individual faculty piece, if it's going to be sustainable. The last thing I'm going to do here, and then I'll get off the stage, I have no idea how late I am, but I'm probably late. This is just a scrolling list of courses. It'll probably move a little too quickly to even read. And I just want to get this across because probably not good for me to talk while you're looking at it, but I'm going to anyway. One of my concerns when I do a presentation that emphasizes my own video course is that people walk away thinking, wow, COIL is a cool idea for video collaborations. Whereas, as far as I know, there are only 2 or 3 other courses of all the ones we've supported that centered on video. Most of them are much more academic, and the material collaborated on was not the kind of material I was demonstrating to you. So I'm just showing this. This is a very outdated list. This was done almost 2 years ago, but it's at least a series of courses. And you'll notice also that the partners, about 2/3 of them are not SUNYs. I haven't had time and won't have time, but we did an institute for what was called Globally Networked Learning in the Humanities. And at this institute, we brought in 20 universities in the States, working with about 25 universities abroad, and helped them pilot courses. This was done through a National Endowment for the Humanities grant. So that's why you see things that are not SUNY in on this big list. So it gives you some idea. Am I way over time? Okay, well, I think I'm going to just not cover the last bit of material, and you can grab me if you wish. So thank you very much.